So now I'm gonna get started here. Okay, who has questions? Yes.
What is your favorite variation?
Okay, so the question was, what is my favorite variation I've ever done? I feel like my answer changes depending on when you ask me, but right now, I guess I would say, I do love the Tchaikovsky pas de deux variation. It's very short, but it's really fast and compact, and I like playing with the music, and I like how fast it is, and just playing with it. And I also love the Who Cares fascinating rhythm variation. Yeah.
What was your favorite costume to wear?
Ooh, what is my favorite costume to wear? This is a good one. It's really simple, but I love the dewdrop costume from our Nutcracker. I typically am like, the tutus look beautiful, but I don't necessarily love them because I feel like I can't like dance as well, and then like they're a little stiff. And the dewdrop costume, it has like bones like a tutu, but you can really move, and it just makes you feel like really beautiful. So that's my favorite costume. Another question? Okay, let me take one from here. Let's see. You remember, what was your favorite dance you did as a little girl? I think my first solo was to like Somewhere Out There, and it was choreographed by my mom. And what was really fun during the pandemic was like getting to rewatch like all those videos, and some of them we like really laughed at because I was like not good, and then some of them I was like, Mom, that was really hard, like how did you have me doing that at like 4? Like, because I think my first solo, I think I was like 3 years old, and it was like a minute long, like it was pretty long, but she said that I could like always really retain choreography, but we definitely had some good laughs like at home with like watching old solos. So there you go. Anybody else here? Don't be shy. Anything. Like what time do we start the day? Do you want to know that? That's kind of interesting. Yeah? Okay. So every day we start at 10:30 at the New York City Ballet. And that's just like class, and it's optional, but it's a way to like warm us up, and I always feel like work on my technique. So I always take unless I really can't. But we have class for an hour, and then they can rehearse us from 12 until 6 with like 3 hours. You have to have an hour break, and then you could do another 3, and then the show at night. So that's like my typical day. So I could be at the theater from like 10:30 till 10 o'clock at night. And we do that every day, but Monday's our day off. Yeah. Okay, someone asked, will I be at SPAC in Saratoga? That's like our summer home. I will be there, but only for one day. I'm going and I'm hosting the very first evening, which is like the lecture demonstration. So I'll be on stage with like the Britney Spears mic, like hosting the evening. Yeah. What's your favorite thing to do in class? Okay, the question was, what is my favorite thing to do in class? Oh, that's so hard. I have 2 answers. So anything turning, because that's what I'm good at. So I think we all kind of like to feel like, okay, we like to do what we're good at because it makes us have confidence. But I also will say I really love adagio, and that's something I'm not good at. I don't know, I think it's because it's like slower music, and I feel like I can kind of have more feeling even though it's class. So there's 2 answers for you. Yeah. Another question? No? Okay, let's see. What do I think about when I do fouettés? Good question. Honestly, I think about being like super calm, because normally when you do them, it's at a point where you're really tired because it's normally during like the coda. And for me, it's not a rest step, I won't say that because you have to think of technique, but I almost have to like, calm myself and not get frantic, and I do much better turns that way. So I just take a deep breath, and I just think of like kind of being in a zone, but not letting myself get like overwhelmed, I think. I think that will be. Yes?
Okay, so here's your question. Do you have any products that you use for your hair?
Okay. She said this might be a strange one, but do I have any hair products that like keep my like hair out of my face while I'm dancing, right? Yes. So honestly, the only thing I use is Tresemme hairspray. I don't know why I chose that one. I think it's because they have that in the hair room at the ballet. But that's all I use. My hair kind of, it's a little curly and straight, so it kind of stays. Like I don't need that much, but my hair is kind of frizzy, so I think the hairspray really helps with that. Yeah.
How fast do you go through your points?
Okay. A lot of good questions. How fast do I go through my point shoes? So that is dependent on how many shows I have that week. So if I have, say, 5 shows, I'll go through normally 5 pairs of point shoes. And that is because, see, we're very lucky, like once you get into a company, you don't have to pay for your point shoes. So like your mom here isn't the one that's buying them. You know, we have them at our disposal, the company pays, so we can really just make them ready for the show. Break them, bang them, you know, I want to make them sure that they're very quiet, all kinds of things like that. So for me, I'll wear them in class, and then I'll put them away, and then I'll bang them. I'll go on stage and I'll test them. I always do this like toe tap. Our stage manager is always like, she comes and does it with me. It's like a ritual. And then I wear them for that night. But then I don't throw them away. I use jet glue, and that's the only time I'll wear them for a show. But I jet glue on the inside. Like I know a lot of dancers do the outside, but that makes it slippery to me. So on the shank along the side, like this, I'll jet glue, and then I can wear them for the next week of rehearsals. So I only really sew shoes for a show, and some of the dancers laugh because like during a rehearsal period, I'll be like, oh, these are from 4 months ago. I like save all my shoes and wear them for rehearsals, but I like can't get myself to sew shoes new just for rehearsal. I'm like, I'll just wear the dead ones. Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
So you mentioned it a little bit ago. So do you have any like rituals or traditions you do before a show?
Okay, that's a good question. So this is, what rituals or traditions do I do before a show? So I kind of always eat the same thing the day of a show, and I kind of do it around the same time. Like I like to do it around, I'd say between 2:30 and 3:30 kind of thing. I mean, obviously it'll change, but I don't like to eat too close to a show. And it's normally just like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich or a turkey sandwich. And I don't know why. I think it's just I know how I feel with that, and I'm not gonna have any surprises. And then if I get hungry right before the show, I will have like a banana and a Cliff Bar. And then I eat dinner afterwards. And then I always get ready 2 hours before a show, but that means 2 hours before I'm on stage. So sometimes we do 3 different ballets in an evening, and I won't go on stage until 9 o'clock, which means I won't start getting ready until 7. So I just look at the timesheet, and then 2 hours before, and I always start with my makeup and hair, and then I do a bar, I warm up. Oh, I forgot. The banging of the point shoes is before anything because I can't relax until I know my shoes are good. So I bang my shoes, and then I start my makeup and my hair, warm up, and then I always sew in my ribbons before I dance. So those would be like my like superstitious things. But I always pick out my point shoes the night before, and yeah, I cannot go to sleep until I know that these are the shoes that are going to be for tomorrow, and I sew them that night. And my mom is funny, like sometimes she'll be visiting me or anybody in my family, and they always know that like when I'm picking out my shoes, like don't talk to me. They need to like either, yeah, my mom used to like sit on the couch and then she'd just be asking me questions. I'm like, Mom, she goes, okay, I just need to leave for like half an hour and then come back. So yeah, it's like my quiet time where I can like focus. And sometimes I'll spend like 30 minutes picking out the right shoe. I'll have like so many pairs around. But yeah, I don't know, it's definitely in my head because I've danced in any kind of point shoe during rehearsal, but that's just my thing. Yeah. Okay, let me take one from here. It's funny to hear your cute voice, but you're a shark. I don't know what that means. I guess yeah, I do have a high voice. What advice would you give young dancers? I think the thing that I would say the most is that you have to really want it. I think that it's a really kind of hard career. It's the best career, I think. It's so fun. I love dancing so much. I would tell everybody to do it if they have a little dream of doing it. But it's definitely tricky. You know, you have injuries you have to deal with. It's not always going to be easy. It's not going to always be an easy road, but I just love dancing so much, and I think that not very many people get to experience that feeling when you're dancing. So yeah, I would just say if you want it and love it, like definitely go for it. I'm like the #1 fan of a dancing career. Yes. Yeah.
Not necessarily only on your day off, but what do you do to recuperate your mind and your body from?
Okay, that's a good question. What do I do to recoup my body from working, you know, like 6 days a week? So one thing in particular that I like do is honestly, like, my evenings are spent taking care of my body so that I can like dance at the next level. And yeah, I think that some people would say, you know, like, oh, you're missing out on things, but I don't feel like I'm missing out because I'm getting to do what I love, and I know that dance is such a short career, and after I'm done dancing, I'll have time to do all those things that like I didn't get to do. But I think that it's really important to like stay grounded and to surround yourself by not only dancers. I think it's important to, yes, have dancers and people that understand what you're going through be friends, but I also think it's really important to have friends that are not in the dance world so that you can kind of stay good and level-headed and not just, you know, think one way. And yeah, I mean, I do like strange things. Like one thing for like swelling that I do is I have this healing clay. It's called Aztec healing clay, and I swear by it. I did it last night. And you mix it with apple cider vinegar a little bit to make a paste, and you put it on anything that's swollen, and in the morning it's not swollen anymore. Like there's little tricks like that I've kind of figured out for my body that I need, that I kind of do. Yeah. Okay, let's see. How do you make your pointe shoes last the longest? So I kind of mentioned this a little bit, which was like after I've used them, if you glue inside the shoe, so along the shank, on the sides, that can make them last like so much longer. And I also always jet glue the tip of my shoe before I've even worn it. So that's like the first thing I do before class even, because I don't like to feel my toes on the floor. Some dancers do, but not me. So yeah, that's what I would say. Yeah.
Do you have any favorite stretches you like to do before class?
You know, okay, do I have any favorite stretches I like to do before class? I would say that for me, my body type, like I can't stretch before I'm warm. So to me, like I think stretching is better after class. I think that there's certain exercises I do that are like for my feet, you know, to get them kind of moving. But for me, I need to stretch when I'm warm, otherwise I might like pull something. And the best stretches for me are mostly like hamstring stretches, because that helps with my back and everything. So yeah, that's what I would say. Let's see. Who are some of your favorite contemporary choreographers you see yourself choreographing more in the future? So Bill Forsythe was like my #1 person I wanted to work with, and during the pandemic I did the bar project, which I don't know if some of you saw, but it was like a dream of mine. And yes, I am choreographing. I just got back from London where I choreographed a ballet. I go in 2 weeks to Cincinnati Ballet where I'm choreographing, and then in February I have a premiere at the New York City Ballet. Yeah, so I'm like nervous and excited, but yeah, it's a big deal. So there you go. Yes.
So, what it feels like to be in pointe shoes?
Yeah.
In your master class on musicality,
Yeah.
you're wearing the red outfit.
Yes.
There are a couple of moments where you're doing a movement and you swoop up on toes and you flutter back.
Yeah.
So that takes my breath away.
Yeah.
That turn and do some.
Okay, so the question was like, how does it feel to like be up on point and like swoop up and like what does that feel like? Because she was saying sometimes when she watches it, it like takes her breath away. I would say like being on point is pretty special. Like I know as a ballerina, like that's something that only we get to experience as opposed to other dancers. And you know, at first when you're doing point, it hurts, right? It's like painful. I'm in point shoes so much that like I don't even feel it anymore. Like that, I almost feel better in a point shoe than I do in a flat shoe, which is just a ballet slipper. And I love point work, like to be up on point and to feel like you're like, you know, defying gravity. It's pretty, you feel like you have kind of like superpowers. And what that step you say, we're just like brain back. It's so much fun to do. Like I love that step. If I choreograph something, I feel like I always put that step in because I think it looks so impressive and it's not actually that hard, but it does kind of look like you're like flying for a second. So yeah, we definitely feel that way. I think being on point and also getting partnered too, that makes you feel like, oh my gosh, like yeah, you like just get to fly around. Yeah.
Sorry, I want to ask, is there a vitamin supplement that you include in your daily
Okay.
routine?
Yeah. Is there like a vitamin supplement that I include in my daily routine? So I take turmeric every night because I don't like to take like Advil or anything like that unless I like have a headache. But I don't like to really take it for like pain and just unless it's like swelling or something. But turmeric is something that naturally, huh?
Powder?
No, I don't take the powder. It's just like a pill. Yeah. And then there is this thing, it's called like Dr. Schultz's Superfoods. That's really good. Yeah, look it up. It kind of has everything you need, and that is a powder. Yeah, yeah. Yes?
What is your favorite part in Nutcracker?
Okay, what is my favorite part in the Nutcracker? This also changes. So, hands down, I would have told you Dewdrop. Like I debuted it. It was one of my first things I did as a principal part. I did it when I was 16, and I just love it. I feel like it's very much the way I dance. And I started doing Sugar Plum probably like 2 years after that, and still I was like Dewdrop just feels like me. More recently, I feel like I would still say Dewdrop's one of my favorite things, but I really enjoy, I think, Sugar Plum just as much. And I think it was something that I had to kind of like grow into because she's kind of like, I don't know how to describe it. Like I just feel like I'm more generous now, and the way I look at the children who are around me, it just feels like I kind of had to grow into it a little bit. Whereas Dewdrop is just like powerhouse, go out there and dance. Like I knew I would have fun every single time. I didn't have to count on a partner, so I could just know I could do it. But those two would be my favorites. And that's all I dance now too. So I've done pretty much everything from grandmother to Sugar Plum, but those are the only ones I dance now. Okay, let me see. How do you revive your feet after point class and performances? So I kind of mentioned this clay, this Aztec clay that I do with apple cider vinegar. I put it on like a paste and then I wrap it in saran wrap and you can sleep with it. I mean, you can also have it on for just a few hours, but I like to sleep with it. And then also just like elevating an ice bucket. You know, ice bucket can really, really, really help as well. What summer intensives do you recommend and how do you apply? So I only attended SAB summer courses. I did it for 3 years. I think that summer course is amazing, and I also think it's the best way to go to SAB, meaning like it's a good way to try it out and see if it's for you. And I think that's the same with any summer course. You can figure out which kind of technique, style you like. How do you apply? I don't even know now because it was so long ago what I did. I think I did it in person, but I'm sure you can do video now. Yes.
I've loved seeing what you've done and collaborating with other styles. It's been, I watched, I don't remember what it was like on something, anyways, where you did it with tap and hip hop, and it was so fun. What's your favorite style to combine with, or even just another style that you enjoy?
Okay, so she's seen things that I've done where I collaborated with other artists and what kind of different styles and which one, she's asking which one is my favorite and kind of why. So growing up, I did not like ballet. Like if you had asked me when I was like your age, like if I would be a ballerina, I probably would have like laughed. Because I was really a very, very strong jazz competition dancer. Yeah, like serious. Like I did jazz, hip hop. I was not great at tap, but any other style I was really good. And ballet was my least favorite. It was the one my mom taught, and I was always trying to get out of the class. And she would say, "Okay, but if you don't do your ballet, then you can't do your jazz today." And I'd be like, "Okay, I'm feeling better." So yeah, that was like our normal little argument every day. And I think it was just because it took the most like discipline, right? You know, in jazz class you get to dance to a song that you like. It's easier to feel the music as opposed to like classical music. So I think I just was drawn towards that. But now, well, I'd say one other important thing is that the thing that I'm so grateful to my mom was that she said, it doesn't matter what kind of dancer you want to become, you need technique, and that comes from ballet. And I'm so glad she did that because I would never have been able to be in the New York City Ballet had she not made me keep up my ballet. And it wasn't until later that I really appreciated it. And it wasn't until I went to the SAB summer course where I got to learn variations that had, like, who cares? It's to Gershwin music, so it's like a jazzy ballet that I get to do in pointe. And I was like, whoa, I didn't know that this was what ballet could be. I thought it was just very classical, and that kind of wasn't for me. So now I think my favorite thing to like collaborate with is tap, and I think it's because I was not good at it. So I'm so intrigued and interested by tap dancers. And I just think that there's a lot of similarities because we can make sounds with our pointe shoes. Like, I hate making sounds with my pointe shoes when it's in ballet, but for tap, you can like tap it, and it's really, really fun. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Least favorite ballet step, jump, and most favorite. Okay, this is good. So least favorite would probably be, I don't like grand plie and center. I don't like it, and I don't really know what it's for. Like, I wouldn't do that on stage. I know plie is like for jumps, but I don't really know what it does in the center. And then, and most favorite. It's funny because whenever like I get this question, I never know what to answer, and everybody's like, Sinead turns, like that's your thing. And so I guess Sinead turns. I would say anything turning. I love to turn. Yeah. Any questions here? Yeah.
Do you like to do Italian fouettés?
Do I like to do Italian fouettés? Not really, actually. I would much rather prefer to do regular fouettés. Yeah.
Yeah, I know you do some things in the summer with summer intensive for children and
Yes.
adults, but from the adult community,
Yeah.
have you considered any opportunities to help us out in the adult world? We're loving to do summer intensives, and if there's nothing on the horizon, is there anything we can do to convince you?
Yeah. So, the question was summer intensive for like adult dancers. And you know what's funny is like I did see that comment, and so I did in my summer intensive that I have every year in California, and I did an adult master class, and it was really well attended, and it was really fun because it felt like my Turn It Out with Tyler classes that I did during the pandemic, where I got to dance with so many of you. So I think, yeah, I need to find more time to do that. And I think that definitely now I understand because not everybody could be in the same place. But this year, actually, for my summer intensive, people flew from London and Alabama and the Carolinas, and I couldn't believe it. But we had a really fun time. So I'm definitely going to do more next summer with more adult classes, and maybe I can figure out more things that I could do too. Yeah. Okay. Tips for picking up choreography quickly in auditions. Okay, this is a good question. I will say that now choreographing, I understand there are definitely different types of dancers. There's some that pick up really quickly and some that it takes a little bit longer. And I will say, I admit that I'm I'm really fast at picking up choreography. So I was lucky in that sense that like when a new choreographer comes, I could kind of just watch it and pick it up. And I think that was from my training of having to learn different styles of dance really quickly. And I know it's super frustrating. A good friend of mine in the New York City Ballet, who was a principal dancer as well, she learned really slowly, and I know it really stressed her out because she would feel like she was like not getting it, everybody else was. And it wasn't that she wasn't a great dancer, like she just needed a couple extra days to get it. Like she would go home, think about it, come back, process it, and it'd be so much better. So I don't know what like the tips would be. I would just say like try to be patient with yourself, and the more like as soon as you get frustrated, I'm sure that's when you are not picking it up your fastest, right? Because you're so concerned about what everybody's thinking and how they're judging you, and that's not going to help you like learn the choreography. I would say like really you don't need to worry about what other people think, because to me I'm like if they can have time to be worried about what you're doing, then they need to get a life, right? So I think I would just say just give yourself time. Everybody's different, and you don't have to pick it up as fast as somebody next to you, but I think it's good to learn a lot of different choreography so that you do get better at it. Yeah. Yes.
When you moved to New York City and you started dancing full time, you said at the age of 14, what did you do, and what would you want to tell your 14-year-old self now? Or what you went
Okay, so this was, she knows that I went to New York at 14, and I lived there, and what would I tell my 14, what did I do there, like, to kind of transition, and then what would I tell my 14-year-old self now? So, I would say the hardest thing for me is that I'm super close with my family. Like I'm really, really close with my whole family. My mom, my dad, my grandma, my sister. And so moving away from them was definitely the hardest. And I lived in the dormitory, which was amazing. And I really enjoyed it because you're living with all of these kids that are doing the exact same thing. So they kind of become your family. But I was lucky enough that like my parents came up all the time, so I didn't get too homesick. But I will say like, again, I think it's just surrounding yourself with good people. Like I think it's tricky to kind of get surrounded by also like you can get lost in the shuffle and start going down maybe a path that you wouldn't if your parents were around. But I was just so committed to like, if I set a goal, I like work it. Like I would like, that's what I want. Very Capricorn in that way. Like we're driven, we're hard workers, and I'm like, if I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna do it 110%. And I think that was also the way I was brought up. So I wasn't gonna move away to New York and not like try to get into that company. So I was super focused on that. So I would say just don't get caught up in like all of the other things that you can, and just because these kids are doing this thing and you don't agree with it, like don't feel like you need to fit in and do that. I think that you need to just stay focused and kind of keep your head level, I would say is the most important thing. Yeah. Okay, we have, did you dance at SAB before joining the New York City Ballet? Yes, so in order to get into the New York City Ballet, you have to go to School of American Ballet. It's not like other companies where you can audition, unless you come from as a principal or something from a different place, but that's even very rare. So yeah, if you want to be in the New York City Ballet, you have to go to SAB, even if it's like for 3 months. Like there's someone that's been there for like 3 months and then get taken into the company. Yeah. Let's see. Liked my Aztec clay. Tips for partnering for the first time. I think that's more for like the men, I think partnering's the hardest for the men who have to do it. I wouldn't have any idea what to say for that, but I think that one thing that I do is I'm a strong dancer, so I always try to do it all by myself. And when you're with a really good partner, the first thing they say is like, let me do some of it. So I think you have to like learn to like hold your arm strong, but really it's up to letting them kind of like lead you, because I think it actually makes it harder if you're trying to do too much. You know, yeah, you want to help jump, but it's all about timing. You know, the reason why they can lift you above their head is not because, yes, they're strong, but partnering is so much about timing. You know, there could be a very short dancer who could dance with a really tall dancer if they have great timing. So, yeah. Any other questions? You're doing good here. Okay, let's see. So you bring Cali to you with the studio every day. So Cali's my dog. She would be here, but I was just in Mexico, so I didn't feel like I could take her to Mexico and then come here. So yeah, Cali comes with me all the time. I will say, literally, I've been on a plane and people have asked me, is that the dog from Ballet Now, which is the Hulu documentary? And I'm like, yes, it is. And then they'll say, like, wait, oh, are you the ballerina? And I'm like, yeah, I'm the ballerina. So I love being Cali's little, like, number one. But yeah, she comes to class with me every day. She's so well behaved. And that's because from like 5 months when I got her, I started taking her to the class. And she sits by my bar spot. She's in my dressing room with me all day long. She loves going with me on trips. She can go through the like airport security. She walks by herself. She knows what to do. I mean, she's like, yeah, I got very lucky with an amazing dog. I will say that. Yeah. Did I get partnering training before I entered a ballet company? And do you have advice for someone who doesn't have any access to that but wants to do ballet as a career? So I didn't actually. I just did partnering in like my jazz dances, but never anything like ballet wise. And yeah, I think that the only way to kind of learn it is to do it. And so I would say, yeah, like try to find a class that does have sort of like a partnering. During the pandemic, we didn't have partners, so I would make my dad like hold my hand, and I would do like my Rosadagio balances. So yeah, you really need an arm. I don't know if it could be like a parent or what, but you kind of need someone to practice. Why do I have so many boxes of shoes? Did you buy them by the ballot? Oh, I think that you think that these are my shoes. These are not my shoes. I'm at Dance for a Corner, which is in Orlando. I'm here until 3 o'clock if you want to come by. This is their store, so those are their shoes. Yeah. Yes.
What are some of your go-to dinners after your shows?
Okay, my go-to dinners after my shows. I will say that my favorite food is pasta. Anybody who knows me well would know that my favorite thing is like Italian food and pasta. And I typically, if I have a hard show, I definitely want pasta the night before. I guess that's another like little ritual I do, but it's something I always do. And I always get it like with protein. I try to get it with like grilled chicken. But yeah, I would say I kind of like every type of food, but that's my number one. Yeah. Have you ever felt like you have been put in a part that you weren't ready for? Yes, of course I feel that way. I think that, you know, I think with Sugar Plum I felt like that. Like I felt like I could do all the steps technically, but I think that I didn't feel like I was quite like ready for it, if that makes sense. So I feel like there are definitely roles that you grow into, and that's like kind of what's beautiful about getting to dance them for multiple like years and multiple times, is that you get to kind of get better in them. I mean, you don't want to be amazing at it right away, because then where do you have to go from there? And there are certain ones that I do feel like, oh, I get it right away. So yeah, there's definitely been roles like that. questions?
Do you find like going from like traveling the world, dancing ballet all over, do you find there's lots of differences in the way the classes are run or the way, I mean like most of it's universal, but there's differences in different parts of the world. Do you find differences?
Yeah, she's saying that I get to travel and I get to see different places, and do I find that the class is sort of different in these different places? And yeah, definitely. I think that there it could be different even in like the same city, because I think that the training is different, right? So Russian training is much different than like the Balanchine training, and you know, I think the Cuban training is also much different. I mean, the Cubans always like are really good at turning, and there's just something that their teachers do, and I don't know what it is, but they always can turn really well. And yeah, I think it depends just on your teachers. Yeah. Yes.
How long were you in SAB before you joined the company?
Okay. How long was I in SAB before I joined the company? So I went to 3 summer courses. I went, I think I was 11, 12, and 13. And then they kept asking me to stay, but I just didn't feel ready to like leave my home. So I finally stayed a full year at 14. And then I got in the company at the end of that year, which is, it was really early. Like I did not think I was gonna get in. I remember being so shocked. But that's what I'm saying. You can go to SAB for like 3 months and get in. Normally you do finish out a full year, and then there's an end of the year performance, and that's when I got in. But then there's also people that have gone from like they were 9 years old. I think SAB is the best way to go is when you're ready to be in a company. I suggest going to summer courses there, but I don't think like the year term. I think you should do that personally. That's just my feeling, like a year or 2 before you want to be in a company. Because what happens is you have all these summer courses and you get new students each year, right? And they always take like 2 or 3 from the summer course for the year. So if you're there for too long, I feel like you kind of get lost in the shuffle a little bit. So I think of it more as like a finishing school. But that's just my opinion. Yeah. Anyone else here? No? Let's see. Are you ever planning to do my live classes again? I know, I was thinking about that yesterday when I was doing the master class, and I was thinking, oh my god, it's been so long since I've done a turnout with Tyler class. And I love them so, so much. So it's honestly just scheduling. I've been on, literally in the last week or week and a half, I've been to California, Las Vegas, Mexico, Alabama, and now Florida. Literally, I'm not even joking. So it's just about my schedule and when I would find the time for it. It's not that I don't want to. I love doing those classes with you. Let's see. Do I have any tips on musicality? You always look so graceful and safe. I did do a class on musicality. There's a master class that's out. With dance masterclass that you can see on the link in my bio on my Instagram. So that can go into more detail there, but yeah, I think that's the best thing to watch because then I'll just like be restating all of it. Let's see. What age did I join New York City Ballet and how long was it before you got promoted? So I joined New York City Ballet when I was 15. I think I got into the company 5 months, so I got my apprenticeship. And then back then it was like you did 9 ballets and they had to give you your core contract, or you waited a full year and then they said yes. So I got my 9 ballets in 5 months because they learned that I was really quick and they could throw me in when anybody got injured. And so I got 9 ballets, so they had to give me my core contract. So that was kind of quick. And then I think it was maybe a year before I got promoted as soloist. And then I got injured, so it took a little bit. But I think from core to principal, I think it was 4 years. Yeah, I think it was 4 years. I know I got promoted to principal when I was 20. So, yeah, 4.5 years. Yeah.
You mentioned you dance 6 days a week when it's during the season. What do you do to train and dance, especially when you're traveling off season?
That's a good question. So I mentioned that I train 6 days a week when I'm in season, but what do I do when I'm not in season to keep in shape? It's funny because even if I take like a 4-day vacation, if I haven't done anything, I feel like that's when my body starts hurting. And I think that that's been the older I've gotten. Like when I was your age, I could take, a month off and be fine. But now my body just feels better when I've danced. So even if I'm on vacation, I do like a little maybe not every day, but in those 4 days, I'll do like a little bar. Even if it's like 10 to 15 minutes of just plies and tendus, but that's just what my body's used to, and my tendons are used to that sort of like movement. And so if I haven't done it, it's like, oh, my hip's hurting, my this is hurting, everything starts hurting. So I think like keeping that going, even our physical therapists say that like keep your feet going. It's really good to do even bar in the pool, jumping in the pool even. That's a good way to kind of do things. Anyone else? No? Okay, let me see. Any tips for teaching as well as being a professional? I got my first contract this year. Congratulations, Abigail. Teaching, I think I've learned a lot from my teachers. I think that my favorite teachers are the ones that command the room. I don't think that you should teach and kind of feel like insecure, because then I think it's harder for the students to kind of have your attention. So I think it's really important to be in the front of the room and to kind of take authority. I always like to lead the class with this is just my personality. I'm like light, I am friendly, I think. But I know what I want. And so I think that I always teach and I try to make a fun space, but at the same time, it's like, no, this is the time to work. So I guess that would be like my best advice, that you can have it both ways. You don't have to have people like crying to get what you want, but at the same time, don't be afraid to like give them corrections. Yeah. Any other questions here? Okay, let's see. Tips for auditioning. This is a good one. I always think outfit is important, and I'm not just saying that because Sodiansa is here. I think that like the color choice is really important if you don't have to be in a uniform. I think because it's a lot easier to be like, oh, who's the girl in the red? Or who's the girl in the pink, as opposed to like the black leotard that 20 people are in. So I think like definitely like finding the right outfit. I think that you don't want to stand in the back. I don't think that you need to be like the pushy girl who everybody notices like nobody wants in their summer course. But I do think you need to put yourself forward, because if you really want to get into that audition, you might not be seen, and it's not because you're maybe not talented. It's just because you need to let everybody have a shot at looking at you. So that would be my advice. Hello from Mexico. I had so much fun there. Somebody said that. What's the worst injury I've ever had, and what was the recovery process like? So I am very fortunate for like the 19 years that I've been at the New York City Ballet to not have many injuries, but 2 that I've had have been very, very serious. The first one not so much, but it seemed serious at the time. I was like 17 and I had a stress fracture to my back, and at the time it felt like the world was ending. And I had to take 6 months off, and I went to California and I hung out with my family, and it was so fun. I had to like get out of New York because I didn't look at the schedule of the New York City Ballet, because I knew if I saw that and I saw people getting my roles, I knew that I would want to come back too fast. So I literally went home with my family, I was in the pool, I did all my exercises, and then I came back. And then my other really serious injury was my neck, and that was in, I want to say 2018, I think, maybe 19. And that one was serious because I didn't know if I'd ever dance again. I mean, 5 doctors told me I could never dance again. I had like a really intense herniated disc to the point where it was like pushing on my spinal cord. So I had like tingling in my fingers, and I didn't lose like my strength or anything, but I couldn't move my head. It was really, really serious. So that was scary. But I didn't stop at like the first doctor who said, you need to get surgery tomorrow. Like, you're never going to be able to walk again. Like, that's what I kept getting like told. And I think the one advice I would give that's really, really important is like, you know your body the best. And doctors are there to like give you information, but they're not in your body. And if something doesn't feel right, like, I would not rush into anything because of fear. Like, because they were telling me I was never going to walk again. You know, my dad was like, we're getting the surgery tomorrow. I just want you to be able to walk. Like, you know, yes, I know you want to dance, but like, this is your life. And I was like, I know they're saying that, but like, I just don't feel it inside. And I also had an amazing support system, which I know that other people don't have. Like, we have an amazing physical therapist who was by my side every step of the way. And she would come to every doctor appointment with me, and she would say, I know what her picture looks like, the MRI, and it looks really bad, but you just tested her and all of her tests were fine. Like, every strength test you did, she was fine. So I'm just saying, she treats the patient rather than the image. And so she kept asking the doctors that, and they'd be like, yeah, well, that's fine, but like, look at this image. You know what I mean? Like, they're so, which they should be. I mean, they have to be careful. They don't want to get sued. You know, they don't want to tell me something like, sure, like, wait it out. But I just kept going to different doctors, and it was finally the sixth one I went to. I mean, I flew across the U.S. to different doctors. And finally the one I landed on was Dr. Kamisa at Hospital Special Surgery, which is in New York. And I had seen 3 different doctors at the same hospital. And there was just something about him that he said, you know, like, well, do I need to get you back to like $1 million contract? And I was like, no. Like, as a ballet dancer, that is not the case. I just want to dance. Like, so what would you suggest? Like, is that a possibility? And he would say, I always say to my professional athletes that, like, let's not rush into surgery. Like, let's wait it out and see. You've already waited 3 months. Let's wait 6 more. He'd say, because I've seen it happen. I'm not going to say that yours is going to heal, but discs can reabsorb. And let's just see what it's like. And I remember being like, wait, you're saying that it even has the potential? Like, out of 6 doctors, he was the only doctor that even told me that that was even a thing that could happen, even if it was a small chance. Like, every other doctor was like, no, you have to get surgery right now. And I remember leaving the office, and it wasn't just because he said you don't have to get surgery, but I just liked that he took the time. He really like spoke to me, that I was like, okay, even if I have to get surgery, like, this is the person I want to do it with. So long story short, I think that you really don't need to rush into something. Don't let people scare you into it. I think that you can take as long as you need till you find the person that you feel like really hears you and understands you. Because I didn't get surgery, and I came back and I'm dancing. So like, all those 5 doctors that told me like I would never walk again, like, I think that that's kind of a little insane. So yeah.
I wanted to ask you, what is your strength training ratio? So how much strength training do you do, especially like for 15, 16-year-old versus class time?
Okay. What is my strength training that I do, especially for like 15, 16-year-olds type thing that I do to like kind of cross train? So I don't know if this is the best answer because I have a lot of strength. For me, like, different dancers are different. Any Pilates that I do is always stretching, because like my core and everything, like, I'm almost too strong. I feel like, in a way, I wish I had more like flexibility, but I know, like, when physical therapists, when I say, oh, I just wish my weight just like went up naturally, and they would say that's actually harder to like work with, because you have to really build up this strength. So for me, I think it's important to find what your weaknesses are and work on that. So yeah, I think Pilates is amazing for both. I think it's good to like strengthen, and I think it's also good to stretch. And for me, sadly, like, at this point, it's hard for me to find something that works for my body. Like, Some people ride the bike. I can't ride the bike because I have a little hip thing that flares up every now and then, and when I ride the bike, it irritates my hip. So that's frustrating. The elliptical is not great for my neck because my arms are constantly moving. So if I hold on to it, but I'm not moving my arms, I can do that. The best thing for me was in the pool, because when I had my neck thing and I couldn't move for 9 months, like literally couldn't move, the only thing I could do was put a belt on that would keep me like above the water, and I would just like tread water. But I wasn't supposed to move my arms because sometimes when my arms get pulled, that can kind of irritate my neck. So you gotta kind of work with what your body can handle, and there are things, you know, I can't do a lot of jumping because that also affects my neck still. Like there's certain things I just cannot do. But I think that it is good to cross train, and I think it's just like figuring out like what works for your body.
So what cross training would you suggest doing? What is good for a ballerina?
I think Pilates is the best. I think that
Swimming?
swimming, a lot of ballerinas swim. I don't, because that takes a lot of arm movements. But I will do, for me, ballet feels the best. So dancing to me is like the best way for me. And so like I do bar in the pool a lot. But I can only speak from my experience because I don't want to speak for something I don't know about. So that's what I would say. Yeah.
Well, during your injuries and just even for every day, what did you do to kind of keep your mental health in check? Because I imagine that was very scary.
That's a good question. Like when I was in my injuries, what did I do for sort of my mental health? That was the hardest thing, I will say, because as dancers, I think we like to know, like, here's a goal, let's reach it. So it's like, I think I wanted to know, even if it was like, you can't dance for a year, but when that year comes, you'll be able to. And this was kind of like, we don't know what's happening. And that to me was like, oh my gosh, like I didn't know what to do with that. So I did this thing, which to me sounded like, ooh, like just not that would be kind of crazy. And I did energy healing therapy, which I swear by now. But if I had, like, you had asked me, I would say, oh, that doesn't really work. And a lot of it was a 2-hour session, and like an hour of it would just be talking. And so it felt like it was like a therapy session, but it was a way for him when we would talk to see what topics my energy would stop flowing in, right? And then we talked through those. And a lot of those were like personal things that happened, like previously, like a personal relationship that went really bad. Like when I would talk about it, like he would say, think about it, your neck is between your mind and your heart. So like we've got to figure out that so that the energy can just kind of like flow through your body, because every time I would talk about certain topics, it's like all of a sudden he would see my neck kind of tense up. So it was like a therapy session, and then it would be like on the you know, like a massage table, and then he would do like energy work. But I swear that that's what got me through the injury for sure. And you know, like there would be times where he would just like kind of stop and stare at me, and it made me feel so uncomfortable. And I was like, shouldn't we be talking? Like I feel so uncomfortable. Now I still see him, and now I could stay there in silence for a long time. But I think it really helped me grow as a person, and honestly, yeah, I wouldn't have changed that for anything. Yeah.
That energy healing that you're talking about, are you talking about chakras? Is that what you're talking about?
I don't know what that is. Could be that. I don't know. He just calls himself an energy healer. So maybe. Yeah, let's see. We'll do 5 more minutes of questions because that's like been an hour, and then we can move on. Does that sound good? Okay. Let's see. What are a few of my favorite dance sequences in movies that always inspire you? Ooh. I mean, Dirty Dancing I've probably watched 1 million times as my go-to. Also Grease, I love those last scenes. I think, is it White Christmas, the one that had, yeah, I love White Christmas. I love your Ellen. And that's a good segue for just talking about my So Danza collection, is I named all the leotards after women that have inspired me. So each leotard has a different name, and Vera is one of them. What is my favorite variation dance? I named two of them. Tchaikovsky Pas that I really like, and I also really love Who Cares variation, fascinating rhythm. Was it hard to convince my parents to let you go, and if so, how did you convince them? This is funny because the first time I ever went to New York, I got a Broadway show when I was 11, and my mom was like, "You're not going." And I was like, "But Mom, what if I never get a Broadway show ever again and you didn't let me go?" And she was like, and she ended up letting me go. My grandmother moved with me, but I don't know how I was smart at that age to like say that. But I think, yeah, I was really fortunate to have parents that like trusted me to go there and to keep a level head. But I also had an amazing family. I mean, my grandmother moved with me for a year and lived with me in New York while my parents stayed at home and worked so that I could afford to be there. Because I didn't come from we weren't rich, we weren't poor, but it was a lot to have a kid in New York living. Like, at the time it was like $1,500 a month, and that was a lot of money for my family. So yeah, I had a really, really great family. When did it change for you that you realized you wanted to be a ballerina? I think it was going at SAB, and it was just because my idea of a ballerina was so like narrow-minded. I thought that it was just super like tutus, classical, crowns, which is funny because that's actually what I really love dancing now. But it wasn't until I got to SAB and I got to learn different types of variations that kind of let me do all sort of my dances and my styles that I thought, wow, I didn't know that this is what ballet could be. And it also wasn't the easiest for me. And I felt like I had kind of like, I know it sounds crazy, but like at 12, I could kind of do everything. I had won all the competitions that were jazz competitions. And to me, I was like, okay, I can either like go into the route of like being a backup dancer, in the commercial route of California, or I am not the best at ballet and I can work really hard and try to get better. And to me, that was what like got me, as like I like a challenge, and so to me that was what I wanted to do. Yeah.
What's your favorite leotard?
My new collection? What's my favorite leotard for my new collection? I think this one that I'm wearing is really one of my favorites. It also comes in this like dusty rose pink that is, I think, my favorite color of the collection. And all the styles come in, those different colors. But this one's just nice because I never have to tug at it. I'm never worried about anything like coming out or falling out, and I like that. I like feeling that it's secure and supportive, and yeah, I just don't have to worry about anything, so that's good. What are my favorite snacks? My favorite snacks, I love Cliff Bar, I love Greek yogurt. I feel like those are good things to always like have on hand. Any other questions here? Yeah.
So you boarded when you were 14. Did you do high school like online?
Yes. So she said I boarded when I was 14, and did I do high school when I was like online? So school to me was super important, and I loved it. And yes, when I got into New York City or SAB, I was 14, so I did my whole high school in New York. And to me, I wouldn't have done it if it was online. Honestly, like I needed to be in school.
Oh, so you were in person?
So I was in person. I went to a high school in New York, and it was called Professional Children's School, and it's something that kind of works with like hard schedules. But I needed to go. Also for mentally, like I loved going to school. I think it was really important for me to be around kids and to be socializing and not just at home. And that works for me, but homeschooling just wasn't it for me. Yeah, and a lot of people that did the homeschooling never finished, because it's really easy to just be like, unless you have parents that are like keeping you going, but a lot of them never graduated, and I'm really proud that I graduated, and I'm also like a second year in college, and I will get my college degree, probably be like in my 70s, because we can only take, classes here and there, but it was really important to me. I mean, if I wasn't a dancer, I like wanted to be a lawyer. So I really do love like academics.
So did your grandmother, so she moved and lived like in an apartment close to SAB? Or?
Okay, so when I was 11, that was when I was in the Music Man on Broadway, and that's when my grandmother and I moved to New York. We lived in an apartment together.
So cool.
Yeah, it was like during 9/11. I'll never forget it. Yeah, we were there together, and I remember after that happened, I wanted to go home. Like I was like, yeah, I was very scared. But during that year, we moved halfway through my school year, and I think I was in, I don't know what grade I would have been in, like 5th or 6th grade or something. And that I wanted to continue with my school in California because I had already started the year. I liked my teacher. So that I did correspondence with my school at home. That I did online. But when I moved back at 14, none of my family moved with me, and I lived in the dormitory. And that's when I went to high school in person.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, let's see. One last question from here. What sneakers would you recommend for day-to-day wear that are good for your feet? For me, I think that you have to find a sneaker that works for you. I kind of switch between a lot of sneakers, but I always like one that has a little bit of a good heel. And I even put heel lifts in, which are like these little blue pads that they have at the ballet for us. And that's just for me because like I recently dealt with like an Achilles thing, and it's also good when you have calf strains to have it like lifted up. So I think it's really good to have like a good insole and to figure out what shoe works better for you, because I can't say that one shoe works for like every type of body. Okay, I'm gonna get off here. I hope you enjoyed the Q&A. If you're in Florida, come to Danswear Corner. I'm here until 3 o'clock, and if not, I hope you enjoyed it. I'll put this up so that you who didn't see it now can also watch later, but it's nice seeing you all. I've done this in a long time, so I'm like, how do I save it?
But I think once you do your line, right? I
Yeah.
think once you X out, it's
Should I exit out? Okay, yeah. Okay. Are you sure you want to end your video? End now. Okay, good. Okay. Yeah, so let me just have 1 second to just post this, and then I'm happy to take any pictures, sign, whatever you guys want. Okay?
Yeah.